FireLogic is a consulting company. We're out of Park Ridge, Illinois. We specialize in Google Apps. We have three or four? Three
trainers, two developers.
3 certified Google trainers, and we got certified through Google itself. We've been to the headquarters downtown and all that. We do a lot of website design, so we build websites, and we also merge old systems like an old Windows or Outlook systems, mail systems into new Google App systems, which is all the rage now. So everybody's switching all of their email servers and stuff over to Google, and that's what we do. We specialize in that. But we don't just do Google, we do other stuff. Office 365 is also another big name out there. They're competing. We do all of that. So any of the cloud systems, we basically take your business and move it into the cloud. Okay? Anybody here have a business? Okay. Those of you who have a business, do you do a lot of marketing and stuff online? Okay, no, nothing like that. Okay, well, that's what analytics is. It's sort of a measure to see whether your marketing strategies and advertising and all of that work. So if you guys can start getting logged in, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and log into your Gmail account. Yes.
I have a question, Dad. We have Google Analytics on our website, and I've got a login. Should I just log into Analytics, or do you want me to go into Gmail?
Yeah, go ahead. If you have an Analytics account and you know the password and everything, go ahead and do that. Log in.
And actually, your Analytics account is tied to your Google account.
Oh, is it?
So if you have a business, say you have Google Apps for your business, when you log in, if you go to the Analytics website, you can log in there with the same account. If you have a personal Gmail account, you can still get an Analytics account. You would just, you could sign into your personal Gmail account and then go to Analytics and sign in with the same account. Just like if you know anything about Google Docs, which we covered last week, when you log in to Gmail, you have access to your Google Docs, which are the Word, spreadsheet, presentation software. So they're all tied together in one account. So, I'm sorry, did anyone not have a Google account at all? Okay. So,
Once you sign into your Google account, what you can do is you can go to www.google.com/analytics, or you can just do a quick Google search if you're in Chrome. Google Analytics, and then go to that web page.
so just so if you just search for Google Analytics, it'll just bring you to the website.
So you want us to sign into our Gmail account first? Or
Yeah, if you can just sign into your Gmail account, that's probably good enough. I think we'll cover some basics here, and then once we get into it, we want to try to make it interactive. It doesn't seem like a lot of people might have a direct application today, so maybe we'll just show you some things. But those who do have accounts, if you want to follow along with us, that's great. If you feel like we need to slow down because you want to follow along, just let us know. If you want us to speed up because you can't do what we're doing, then that's fine too. If you have questions, raise your hand, and we'll come around and help you. Yes.
Yeah, I put Google Analytical, and then I click on this one, so it should come up instead of that it says.
You're actually searching your email right now, so if you click open another tab.
Okay, take this one out.
Yeah, you can click on another tab. Yeah, because you don't want to be in your email. So if you're in your email, open another tab in your browser. The tabs up here, and then either go to Google Analytics or just search for it. Is the way I usually just get to it. Or you
Can we go in Google search and put the Google Analytics?
Yeah, if you're using Chrome, you can search right from the what they call the Omnibar, which is at the top. You can open a new tab just by clicking on the little blank tab icon up here, and then right from where you normally put in a web address, you can actually do a search from there. and just search Google Analytics, and it'll just pop right up, and you can log in. So, Adad's going to be going around helping people. I'm going to kind of move forward. We'll go slow at first, and we'll see how it goes. We have a lot of information to cover, but we'll just go as fast or as slow as we need to because if you can just walk away with the basics today of what it is and how maybe I could use it if I'm starting a business, if I have a business, if I work for a business where, maybe it's a small business. By the way, my name is Mike Cannizzo. I'm with FireLogic, and that's Adad. I don't know if I think he introduced himself. I was busy with the computer. If you do manage a website, a more complex website, or if you have one and you get into the analytics, you might want to think about hiring a professional to do the search engine optimization, which is really what we're going to be, the underlying theme of today, is you want people to come to your website. So how do you do that? And one way to do that is you can tweak your website to drive people to it. You can advertise, and you can actually do things in your website. You can do things with searches, which is the search engine optimization, to drive people to your website. So if you can get some basics today, and then maybe how to start thinking about that. And what you use analytics for is to see how successful you are. So you can see, kind of get a feel for who's coming to your website, what pages are they looking at. If you're doing ad campaigns, which we really won't get into today, but because it doesn't seem like we're really there yet. If you're doing ad campaigns, maybe you're paying for advertising, you can use Google Analytics to determine how effective, your marketing dollars are being spent. So with that, I'm going to pop back to the agenda because I think we'll just get started. So I kind of covered why and how you get to analytics. But here's just a little brief video that will just give you maybe a better overall look.
Google Analytics is the next generation web analytics tool from Google that shows you how people find your site, how they navigate through it, and how they become customers. In much the same way that the Google search engine has made it easy to use powerful search technology, Google Analytics brings a new accessibility to enterprise-class web analytics, making it possible for all advertisers, publishers, and website owners to improve their online results. A flexible graphing tool allows you to see larger trends, even as you analyze and compare specific time periods. Short narratives, scorecards, and sparklines summarize your results, while detailed reports are just a click away. Report controls allow you to place details within context and visualize the data in new ways. Interested in whether conversion rates vary by region for a specific keyword? Segmentation menus provide a way for you to slice data along a variety of factors. Create and share a customizable collection of report summaries which you add and organize on your dashboard. And since sharing data is a key part of decision-making in most organizations, Google Analytics lets you send and schedule personalized report emails. Of course, you can also export your data into a variety of formats. And to help you understand, interpret, and act on what you find, Google Analytics provides context-sensitive help and conversion university tips available from every report. If you use AdWords to drive traffic to your site, Google Analytics automatically provides you with all the information you need to make informed keyword buying decisions. AdWords reporting shows how well each AdWords campaign, ad group, and keyword performs. You can see the number of times your search ad was displayed, how many clicks it received, the cost of those clicks, conversion rates, and e-commerce transactions, as well as your revenue per click, return on investment, and margin. It's often useful to know where your best customers live. Clickable heat maps display your traffic by continent, region, country, state, and city. You'll not only see where your customers live, but learn how valuable each area is to your business. This is particularly useful if you're considering buying local search keywords on Google, or if you're considering offline ads and promotions in a specific region. It's easy to overlook the importance of content optimization, but often small changes to key areas of your site can have a dramatic effect on conversions. One of the keys to keeping the visitors you've worked hard to attract is to use landing pages, entrance pages that provide exactly the information that the visitor is looking for. Google Analytics provides reports specifically created to help you design better landing pages and pair them with the right keywords and ads. Optimizing the steps that visitors take on their way to conversion is another aspect of content tuning that can yield significant results. Funnel and navigation reports help you simplify your checkout processes so that more visitors become customers. This report shows you what percentage of visitors who started actually complete each step in the process. It also shows where the visitors go who drop out of the funnel process. This can help you find and correct obstacles to conversion. Site Overlay allows you to view click and conversion information superimposed on every link as you surf through your site. It's an intuitive way to gain insights into how design and layout on your site affect your bottom line. Getting started with Google Analytics is easy. Simply sign up for an account and copy and paste the custom JavaScript that we provide you into each page of your site. If you already have an AdWords account, you can simply log into that account and click the Analytics tab to sign up. If not, click here to sign up for a free Google Analytics account now. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so obviously you can't click there, but we showed you how to get in there. So
Just very quickly, if you guys want to follow along, those of you who actually got to the Google Analytics page, you can go ahead and sign up with your Gmail account. So your credentials are going to be whatever your Gmail is and whatever your password is. So you actually already have an account, you just have to sign up for. And I think there may be a couple of questions they'll ask you.
Okay.
So up at the top in the corner, there's a little orange button that says sign up for Google Analytics.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to we'll start with the big picture of just getting signed up and kind of narrow it down to the point where if you want to sign up, and even we can even take a few, we'll ask you if you want to take a few minutes to maybe even just create a temporary, example web page so that way you can, pop in and follow along with us.
We use our own Gmail account?
Yeah. So one thing you want to do, and all this is referenced off the agenda, which we gave you a paper copy of, but right at the top of the paper copy of the agenda, there's a URL. So if you type in that URL, you will go to the online version, which will make the links we put in the document clickable, so that when you're going through this later, you can just kind of click on things, or if you want to do it now, you can kind of click on things and see the things that we're showing here. So one of the first things you want to do is, before you get started in earnest with your own real website, is you want to take a look at the checklist. So when you go to the analytics site, all this stuff is available. I've linked to it on the agenda so that it's more readily accessible. But you want to go, to this checklist, and it'll just kind of give you a guideline of how to get started and then how to get the most out of it. So this is we're pretty much gonna just stick up here today and just getting started in basics. But as you go along, if you progress and want to learn more, you can go through this. Yes, sir. We'll be with you in a second. Do you have a question, or do you need help?
Just a quick question. I have the agenda on the screen. How do you get to that on the screen?
I clicked off of the agenda. We have some links here, and right here is review the checklist. That's where I'm at in the agenda right now.
Okay.
So I'm right here. So the video we watched here is what is Google Analytics, the link to our website. And then if you want to create a site, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, you can there's a million different things out there. We put a couple of links to real simple ones. We'll actually recommend a Google site one. And we'll progress through here. But wherever you see the links, you can click on it and follow along, or come back later and take a look at it. Because again, it's a lot of information. We're just going to try to give you the basic overview today.
Thank you.
So that's the checklist. The checklist says, okay, we got to install the tracking code. So in order to do that, we have to, and I'm kind of going to jump around here. We have to sign up, and I'm just gonna, I went through, I signed up for an account, I did some screenshots. So here's what you're gonna see when you click the sign in or sign up account. It's a 3-step process. So you want to sign up for Google Analytics. If you want to do that, let's do that now, and that way we can just kind of move on with the process. Does anyone who wants to get into their analytics account, are you there?
If we don't own a business with an account, can we still sign up for it?
Could we use like a work account or something? Or?
For a Gmail account?
No. To do what you're telling us to do now, do we need a website?
If you have a Gmail account, well, yeah, you need a website to do some of this. So if that's too much for you and you just want to follow along, we're going to try to show you as much as we can. If you do have a website or you want to create just a real quick one, then we're going to show you how to do that. Because you could use this for your personal stuff too if you wanted to. You can track any website. It doesn't have to be.
Okay, so at what stage are we going to create the website?
We'll do that. We'll do that next. First thing is we need an analytics account. So if you need help getting logged into analytics, let us know. Okay, so first step is sign into analytics. Then you get a tracking code, and then we're going to learn about how to do some basic tracking. So,
Name, the website URL was.
are you on the screen, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're here, you want to sign up for a website. You can also use this to track apps if you make phone apps, but I don't think any of us do that. I don't even do that. It's a very interesting process, actually. But if you do a website, you give yourself a name, you put your website URL here. So if you want to get a website, what I recommend is, since you're already signed into your Google account, that you just open up another browser and go to Google Sites. So, for example, I'm just going to go to my personal account here. And right off the menu bar here, I can click, well, actually probably the best way to go there is just sites.google.com. And since I'm already logged into my account, I'm going to come to the Google Sites webpage. So if you're familiar with Google Docs, Google Sites, it's just another application available with your Gmail account that allows you to create pretty basic Google Sites. The FireLogic site is actually based on a Google site, and many other companies use it as well. But there are lots of tools out there for creating websites. This is just one example. So if you want to create a new site, you click the Create button. You choose a template. In this case, just to keep it simple, I'm going to just choose a blank template, which is already selected. And I give my site a name. And then notice down here, you'll get a URL. And this is what you need to put into Google Analytics. And what I failed to mention at the very beginning is we're recording this session. So I'm recording what you see up here and our voices. I'm not recording anyone's picture or any kind of video. But so whatever you see at the top here, we're recording. We'll make that video available to you probably in about a week or so. And we'll send the information to the library, and then they can send the information out, or we'll get it to you somehow. So if you're following along and you don't quite get it, you can always come back and watch the video. So you give your site a name, you give your which will generate the URL, which is your website address. And then what you have to do is you have to type in this code here to verify that you're a person and not a robot creating websites. So it looks like my word is bling. But yours is going to be different if you're doing this. So once I have this, so it's very basic and very simple, I just hit the create button. Oh, and it says that the the URL that I've chosen is not available because I use a very common name. So I'm just going to change that to,
EPPL,
what is it?
training EPPL for Evergreen Park Public Library.
And obviously everyone will have to select a different site. Okay. And what we're doing here again is we need to sign up for an account. The way Google Analytics works is we create a Google Analytics ID, which we then insert into our website. So it's that ID that tracks your website and pulls that data. So as people are going to your website, that code gets executed, that information gets sent to Google and gets populated into your analytics account. So you need a website, you need an analytics ID. We're creating the website here if you don't already have one.
So if you have your own website, you have to put that.
Right, and we're going to kind of show you we'll show you like 3 variations of how to get that code into your website. And it all just depends on what you use to create your website. This is just one way of doing that. We're using Google Sites in this case. But you may pay someone to do your website. You may use a different product like webs.com or Weebly or any kind of product out there that'll help you create a website. So the idea is you have a website, you create an account, you generate a code that is specific to that website, and you put that code in your website. When people go to it, it sends information to your Google Analytics account.
So if I'm just putting this in and it's a non-existent website, it's not going to do it.
You're not going to get any data, but if you want to go through the exercise to see, okay, later, how am I going to do this when I have a real website?
Right.
Or to actually, maybe you don't have all the information for your company website, then you'll have been through the process. So this is the very basics of how to get this going. Okay, so I created this very simple website. I'm not going to do anything else with it other than I need a website to put my code into. So let's go back to so I would come back here and I would put in, sorry that you can't see this very well, but where it says URL, oh, I should be in presentation mode, sorry. Right here, website URL. So you just give your website a name. So my website, doesn't matter. Website URL, that's what I'm going to get off of my website. So if it's mycompany.com or whatever your website is, you put it here. You select a category, you pick your time zone, and then you say create account. And then what you'll do is you'll get a tracking code. Here's what we're driving at, this tracking code. So for every website you have, or if you just have one, when you sign up, this is what you're going to get. And we're going to show you, you can actually generate multiple tracking codes, but they all do the same thing. You put either this ID number into your site, or down here, there's actually code. So you would copy that code and paste it into a certain part of your website. Just depends on how your website is set up. We're going to show you 2 pretty basic ways, and then if you have a more complex website, you have to actually go in there and put and edit the code. Yes.
I'm sorry, I glanced away when we were at the last page, and I'm still on the account name, setting up your account. Would you put in for this?
For the analytics
yeah,
account?
so I put in, the name of the new website that I just created. If you can go back just one, yes. So see below there, setting up your account, one little bit. It says, yeah, it won't give me a tracking ID because I don't have anything filled in there. they do something wrong?
What you want to do is I just use my website name.
Okay, so I can
I
just
put the
copy
same
this, edit it,
information
and
down
send it.
here.
Thanks.
So we marked down this tracking.
Yeah, and actually you can access, we'll show you how to access that tracking ID number anytime you need it, and that code anytime you need it. So we have very simple websites. If you are managing a huge e-commerce website, then you would have to be a little more savvy about the names you choose. But if you just have one website, I use the same website name and account name. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of examples. The first one is going to be with a website creator called Weebly. It's actually a very nice web creator site. It gives you a lot of powerful tools. It is pretty easy to use, and it's just one that a lot of people who need personal or professional websites don't have a big budget. They can do it themselves. And there's lots of bells and whistles you can add on there, or you can just use the free basic site. So it's a free site if you just want the basics. So we're not going to go through and actually do anything with that. I just wanted to give you an option of how that might be done. So if you were using Weebly, you would log into your website. And I put this in here because it's very popular, so I didn't know if people were going to do it. So if you don't have it, don't need it, just follow along for the general idea of the process. So you would log into your Weebly website, you would go to settings, you would click on SEO, search engine optimization, and then what it pulls up is information about your website. So here's where, if you're thinking about a website and you want to get people coming to it, here's where you start just that process, because we're talking about search engine optimization. So if people don't know your website exists, how do they find it, right? They probably will do a search, Bing, Google, Yahoo, whatever. And what you want to do is you want to optimize that so your site comes up first. Well, it's very competitive, obviously. So if you're a plumber, if you have a plumbing company or something, there might be a lot of people in your area and obviously across the state and nation that have websites. So how do you compete against that? This is the very basics. So in this case, and it's going to be similar for all website creators, you want to describe your site and you want to have keywords. These are words that get embedded into your website that no one really sees. So you might say plumbing contractor, Evergreen Park, Illinois, 24-hour service, anything that you feel like someone might search for. Because what happens is they're called meta keywords. That information gets read by all the search engines.
Put
And
commas
they
in between the words, or
what?
put commas in between the words?
Yeah, separate each keyword by a comma.
Oh, I see.
So what it does is that when search engines go through the internet and look at websites, they look for these meta words. So it's just basically step one of developing a website is you want to have relevant meta keywords. It's just the very most basic thing. So that's one thing. But then Weebly makes it easy. Yes, sir.
How many keywords can you have?
You can have as many as you want, and there's all kinds of theories and strategies about how to do this. But obviously the basics, maybe your company name, your the industry you're in, any special services you provide, your location. Think about it. If you were, say you lived in Evergreen Park and you were looking for a service or a business, how would you search for that?
Can you also use like a 3-word phrase?
Yes.
And then comma at the end? And
Yeah, you could use like plumbing contractor, but you could also use plumbing, comma, contractor. But you got to think about it. If someone just types in contractor, there's how many contractors in the in the world or the United States?
Plumbing, you might get plumbing supply. You might get plumbing.
Exactly. So you got to think about it. You don't want to have 500 words here, because I think search engines tend to ignore certain words. They all have different, it gets really complex. So what I recommend is you keep it simple, try to keep it relevant to your business, and over time with analytics, you can see what's happening and you can start to tweak those. So that's part of the reason why that's the reason why we want to use analytics, is to evaluate how we're doing with our website. Are people finding it? Are they using it? What sites, what pages are they using?
So does Weebly act as a search engine?
No, Weebly is an online website creator. Think of it that way. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of tools out there, or different ways that you could use to create a website.
GoDaddy and all those other ones?
Yes. Yep. You need to have a website name, so you'd use a site like GoDaddy to register and pay for your name and generate your name.
Well, you do that first and then come to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're talking about one little aspect of a very large process.
And can you get a domain name through Google or not?
No.
Okay, so you have to go to a place like GoDaddy.
Right. Right. Yeah. GoDaddy is a domain registry. So if you're looking at the big picture, obviously you need to have a domain name first. So you're going to register your domain name through a registrar like GoDaddy. There's probably tens, hundreds of them. Yes, sir.
Just quickly, something I wanted a long time. How do these organizations become domain registrars? And why isn't Google one, for example?
Well,
or could I be one?
Yeah, I don't think you
international
want to be one. There's just like any other business. There's certain criteria you have to meet and certain things that you have to do. I honestly, I couldn't answer that question with much more than a very layman guess. But suffice it to say, there are a lot of domain registrars out there. Now we're using Google Analytics, which is a Google-specific product, but there's a lot of different analytic tools out there. Google's not the only one, but we use Google a lot with FireLogic, and they just have a lot of great tools. Most of them are free or very inexpensive to use, but there are lots of tools out there. So you'd register for a domain, you get your address, then you need to create your website. You could use something like Weebly, Google Sites, webs.com, again, many different creators you can use. You could even do it yourself. If you know HTML code, you can sit there and type it in all yourself. I don't recommend it. That's the way we used to do it many years ago, and I just don't recommend it. I hate it. Then this is what has happened is, it used to be that you had to know programming and all the code to get a website, and you had to hire someone. Well, things have progressed to the point where the things we're showing you here today, while it's complex, now a business person could do all of these things themselves, really, using all these various tools. Many of them are free or very inexpensive. So it's really opened up the door for people to do things. So even if you just do something on the side, I restore furniture, or I sell antiques, or whatever it is that you do, you can do this, and we don't have to make it real complicated. So you sign up for a domain name, you would use something to create your website, and then you can use analytics to track to see how you're doing. And you're going to put as much effort into any of those steps as necessary to grow your business as the way you want to. So, analytics it's an amazing in-depth tool, but even for me, I don't have a need. I don't run an online e-commerce site, so I don't need all the bells and whistles that come with it. So we're going to try to keep it simple. Yes, sir.
So what if you had like a business in Facebook? Would they be able to track it that way or no? Like if you created a business,
like a page on Facebook.
My wife, she makes cakes and she has a page in there.
Yeah, there are hooks into social media through analytics, so you can determine how your social media is performing. It's kind of beyond the scope of what we're doing here today, but I can kind of show you where that would be. And the great thing about the Google Analytics tool, and I would say the Google products in general, and again, they're not the only one out there. I don't own any stock in Google. I don't work for Google. It's just a tool we use to be successful. The great thing about it is there's a lot of really good help. So, and I'll show you some of that as we go through the live demo here. Okay, I don't know what this term means. In analytics, there's a gazillion terms. What does that mean? How do I get help on that? And I'll show you how to search for that help. Okay, so then what you do is on the analytics page, you can either get that ID number, and down below, depending on how you have it set up, you also generate a code. This is why you don't want to be doing this manually. I couldn't write this code. So it's hard enough to write web page code, let alone all the scripting language that is needed to track who's coming to your site. So, but Google makes it easy for you. They create that code for you. You copy that code, and here in Weebly, the reason why we're showing you this is because they make it easy too. So you can put in all this information, including footer codes and header codes. And the nice thing about Weebly, if you're looking for a website to use, and again, I don't own Weebly stock, or I don't have any vested interest in it. It's just a tool that I use, and the tool I recommend to people because it's easy to use. Is Weebly is based on a template. So whatever you put in here will go on all of your pages. If you manage your own website, let's say you use a product, one I used to use a long time ago was Dreamweaver, where you would manually type in all your code and everything like that, and you had 10 pages on your site, you'd have to go into each page, edit each page, and put this code in there. So if you do this all the time, it's not really that big of a deal, but what I like about Weebly is it's a header code, so it's going to go into the header of every page on my website automatically. I just have to do it once. Yes, sir.
With that, we know who's hitting your account? You have their IP address, or you can capture their name, or?
Right. Well, what this code does is it, when someone goes to your website, this code gets run in the background, and essentially what it does is it's tracking information about that user. And notice here's your account ID number. So what it does is it reports back that a computer in Chicago accessed this web page at a certain date and time, and it's associated with this account, and that information gets pulled into your analytics account. And we'll show you how that's going to look.
How detailed? Can they run it all the way to an IP address?
I don't know that it generates IP address data. That might be in there someplace.
But would you be able to respond to the people who are accessing your account?
No. I mean, this code it's gathering generic information about the person. What pages they're looking at. It will be based partially on their IP address because it uses that IP address information. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, that's sort of identifies what network you're on. Usually, like your internet service provider, so I've got Comcast at home. So when I access a page at home, it knows, okay, based on my IP address, that I'm in Carpentersville, Illinois. So, and then we'll see that. We won't see that it was my house. You won't get that level of detailed information, but it'll show generally where those users are coming from, which could be important if you have a national business and you're selling lamps online. Where are people buying it? Okay, I ran a big campaign in Illinois, but I'm getting so many hits from Illinois, but I want to move over to Indiana. Maybe I got to target advertising over there. Analytics allows you to see if your advertising is being effective by that kind of information.
If you put in header and footer codes, if someone is just going to your site, do they see those codes?
No.
And what is the difference between the header and the footer? Is one better than the other for?
Google recommends that you put this code in your header. If you look at the Weebly site, it has the footer first, and it says example Google Analytics tracking code. Okay, but Google tells me to put it in my header, and Weebly's suggesting I put it in my footer. The reason why you want to put it in your header is because the header is at the top and it gets executed first. So every line of code on that web page gets executed when a person goes to your website. So if it's at the top, it's going to get executed first. Google recommends that. Okay. If there's a problem on your website and it never gets to the footer information, your analytics won't be successful. So put it at the top. And then
This
obviously,
code, you won't see it. There's, whenever you go to a website, there's a whole, like, thousands and thousands of pages of code that you don't see, but all you see is whatever the web page is. You don't see any of this code. This is all back-end stuff. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you put part of that code, that Google stuff, make sure that part of that code is the Google Analytics part, so that as soon as it starts the code, when it starts from top to bottom, if it starts here, it'll start tracking right away, and then it'll finish, all the rest of the code. It'll load your page.
so that's just one example. Again, Weebly is easy to use. It makes it real easy to get that code you generated and put it into a website. The example that I recommend you use today, if you want to actually do this as we go along, is we had you create a Google site. If you want to do it now, or if you already did it or want to do it at home, just follow the directions, create the Google site. And then Google sites are even easier because it's Google and the products work well together. What you do is you go into your site, and I'll show you this live in a minute, but we go into our site, you click on the Manage Site, and we go down to the General tab. If you weren't here last week, generally when you're on a Google application, it's going to tell you what you're doing and where on that page you're at. So in this case it's highlighted in red, and then usually a red action button. So always look for the red highlighted or buttons or words on your page. So I'm managing my site, I'm on the General tab, because I could click on any of these links, but I'm on General. And then notice right here under Statistics is a place to put my property ID. That's the ID number I was talking about that we generated when we created the Google Analytics account. So instead of typing that code or copying and pasting that code into Weebly, like in the header, like I just showed you, Google makes it even easier. You just have to put that code in there. So, but again, either way, you're just going to copy and paste the information from your Google Analytics site into whatever website tool you're using. So again, big picture, we're creating a Google Analytics account to generate a code or a script. Most websites, you're going to put that script in every page. In the Weebly example, we put it in the header, so it got pushed out to all of our pages. But on a Google site, if I'm using Google Sites to manage my tools, I just need that code, that ID number, that tracking ID number. Yes, sir.
You're tracking the user a little bit. Any chance it's going to develop a cookie so you know just what they're looking for?
Yes. Google Analytics, that's actually how it works, and that's how it keeps track of what the person is doing on your website. If you don't know what a cookie is, I personally like cookies, but in web terms, a cookie is a small data file that gets saved to your hard drive on your computer every time you visit a website. So again, it's one of these behind-the-scenes things that's sort of advanced, but if you want to know how it works, is you visit a website, that code gets executed that we put into there. It's going to say, okay, Mike's website, and it creates a unique, people get freaked out about cookies, and 99.9% of the time it's nothing to worry about. And any legitimate website is going to create a cookie. It's going to save that information on your computer, and it's going to transmit that information back and forth. That's how Google knows. That's how other websites know where you left off. Did you ever go to a web page, come back 5 days later, and you go back right to where you left off? That's because that information gets saved onto that cookie. So it's not saying who you are or what color your hair is or any personal information about you, if it's a legitimate website. It's just telling you kind of like when you first went to that website, what date, what time, how often you go back. It's really very little information. So, but you're right. So that code generates a cookie. That's what uniquely identifies that person. So if I go to a site and you go to a site, we each have our own cookies, and that information is used by Google to populate our analytics account. So that's how it knows that I went to the site and visited 5 pages, and you went to the site and just went to 1 page. I was on there for 45 minutes, you were on there for 2 minutes.
Okay, where I'm going with my questions, say this site you're developing, say it's a legal site, and I'm an investigator and I'm watching you. Can I monitor who's hitting your sites?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of tools. Anything that's sort of beyond the scope here, but there are all sorts of tools that law enforcement can use to monitor traffic back and forth over the internet.
Okay, but something totally outside of analytics.
Yeah, it would be out. Yeah, it would be
It's
outside of
the
this.
scope of this here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this here is more generated just for a user to see who's coming into his site.
Yeah.
Not so much for an outsider.
Again, remember the ID is unique to your website. So we have to tell your website what your ID is. So that's all we're doing here, is we're embedding the code, or we're embedding our property ID into our website. So when someone visits our website, it knows that, you know, someone visited the website, when they visited, what pages they went to, how long they spent there, very basic information. So without this, you have no idea. So these are just the very basic initial steps of what you need to do. So to kind of, I guess, show you how that works in practice. So here's the website I just created. Now I'm going to go to More and Manage Site. And then here you'll see I'm already at the General tab here because it's highlighted in red. And here's where we would, you know, put in some of our information, site description, landing page, etc. But here's statistics. So here's where I would put in that code.
I'm sorry, where was the statistics?
If you're following, it's right on the general page. So if you're following along in the Google site, or you're going to go back later, remember, very simple, we just created a very simple Google site. I'm going to go to More and Manage Site. We could have a whole nother class on Google Sites. We could have 3 classes on Google Sites. But Google Sites is another very simple, easy to use tool, and you don't even have to sign up for a domain name. So if you noticed, my website address is very generic. It's sites.google.com/site, and then the name I gave it. So anyone who creates a free web page using their Google Sites, and you could create 100 of them on your account if you wanted to, but you don't get that personal domain name. So if you wanted it to be mycompany.com, you use the registrar, you sign up for the website, and then you would use a tool. You could use Google Sites or any other tool then to create a website with your name. If you don't have a name, you just want to practice with this, you don't have to pay for anything. If you register for a website, you have to pay for it. It's not very expensive, but you have to pay for it. So I'm editing my site. I go to More, Manage Site, and then I scroll down, and that's where I get to the statistics. And this is where I put in my code. If you're following along, even if you're going to your own website, you're not going to see any analytic data for a day or two. It takes time for Google to collect all of this data and to populate your Google Analytics account. So, but this is the important part. Once you do this, from the moment you do this and you click Save, it's going to start tracking data of people going to your website. So going back, we're moving right along here. So I showed you how to get the code, how to put the code into your site. Sort of the third option is if you are using some sort of HTML editor. I'm not going to get into that. I don't think many people do that today. But just know that, okay, I'm using some product out there, or I'm even typing it on my own at home, which you theoretically could do, but it gets more complex. Then I need to go into the web code of each page that I create and copy that code I showed you for the Weebly example. I would copy that then into each page. So All three of these are doing the same thing. I'm just showing you the different, probably the three, well, there's, I guess, three basic scenarios. The Google website is the easiest. If you just want to play around with this, or you're just starting off, or you're doing something on the side, you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can use Google Sites and Google Analytics to do that. If you want to get a little more complex, you can use a site like webs.com or Weebly or something like this to generate your site. Very easy to integrate into analytics. Okay? Okay, now we get into the fun part. So, everyone feel like you're at a place? Any general questions about sort of the big picture? If you take anything away from today, big picture, you can always come back and kind of fill in the blanks. It's kind of hard to follow along when there's so many different pieces that you have to have in order to do this. So, I manage a few websites on my own for friends or for organizations I'm involved in. So I've created a couple of pages, and when I log in to my Google Analytics account, I come to the home page. So I like to talk about landscapes of products. If you were here last week, I like to keep it real simple. With a lot of the Google stuff, you have something usually on the left column, left side of the thing, and then buttons across the top, and all of your content is in the middle here. So when you first log in, you're at your home screen, and this is giving you the very basic information about your Google Analytics account. So in my case, a couple of things here. In my case, I have several accounts. So if you're a webmaster, you might have tens, dozens, hundreds of accounts that you manage. We're going to keep it simple, obviously. I just have my own personal. I have a Google Apps trainer certification page on the Google Marketplace. And in order to do that, I needed a website to link back to. So if you go to Google Marketplace and look for Google Certified Trainers, you can find me. And when I set that up, I needed a page that people could come to and look at. It has some basic information. It's like a listing, like a yellow page listing almost. So it has basic information about me and then a link to my website. Well, I don't really get a lot of business through there. I get my business through FireLogic, but I kind of have to have it. I want to have a presence on the web page. So notice I use a Google site just for that, and my personal account. So there's the sites.google.com/sites, and then my first initial and last name. So this is one of the accounts that I have, and we can look at some of that data. It's not very interesting because not many people find me that way. And then I also manage another account for an organization that I belong to. But the point is that I can have multiple accounts, and then you see the data with them. So it tells you the account name. You can have multiple IDs. So you can imagine if I'm running a larger website, maybe I'm a plumbing company. Let's do a really different example. Maybe I am, maybe I sell.
How about if you're a nonprofit that's getting contributions or something?
I'm a website. I'm just going to do it with the sales. It's just easier in my mind, my example. I sell toner cartridges. So I might have a website where you can go and purchase toner cartridges for your printer, and that would be my e-commerce site. And I might have a customer service part of my website where if people are having problems, issues, they want to contact me for customer service. It's all the same website, but I want to track that information separately. So what I could do is I could generate multiple property IDs so I could track different segments of my website. Now it's kind of beyond what we're doing here. I don't have the need for that. So in this case, I have one website property for each. Or I might have 3 different websites for my business, right? For some businesses do that. So I could get an ID for each one of them. And we'll show you how to go into your admin account and where you would create and manage your accounts. So the way the structure works here is you have a Google Analytics account, then you create accounts within that for your web pages, and each web page or each part of your web page has an ID. Again, this ID number is what tracks what people are doing. So this is really what we're driving at here. So in your case, you're going to have an analytics account, you're going to have an account, and an ID.
No, they won't see that. Well, that's what they're clicking on. Is that right?
This is, the analytics account is only for us.
Okay.
Yeah, people going to your website won't see any of this.
All right.
So, and hopefully you'll use this tool to get more people to your website and to make your website better, so people are getting the information you want them to get. So that's the account name. Notice that there's a button here that says showing visits for the last 30 days. So it just gives you some very basic information and a number of visits over the last 30 days. Now this is the meat. This is what we're starting to get into, the analytics. Do you remember, what was this?
It's the percent difference
From the previous month. Okay, so I had to look this up because I wasn't sure what it meant. So this is how many clicks this last 30 days, and it's 100% increase over the previous 30 days. Now in this case, I just enabled this one for this class. So this is sort of just a test one I'm doing. So I didn't have any data from the previous month, so therefore it's 100% increase. But for my personal account, people have looked at it 9 times this month. That's a 50% increase. So that means the previous month, 6 people had looked at it. So right away, as soon as we log in, we're getting some basic information about our account. So I can click on these and go into and get more information, but I want to show you a little bit more here. Here's the admin page. So if I click on admin, now you see here's where I can add a new account. So if I wanted to create a third one, Evergreen Park Training website, I could click add a new account, and I could add another one. I can delete an account from here. So maybe you're testing and playing with it, then you actually do your real website, or you create a one, and you want to delete your test one, you can go in and delete it from there. So this is just your account information. So if you only have one, that's fine. That's what most people will have. When I click on one of these, I will start to see the information that I used when I created the site. So in our case, it can get very complicated, but I can add a new property. Remember, I said you could have multiple properties associated with an account. So I manage multiple websites. Maybe I manage multiple personal websites for me. I have one for my business, one for my family, whatever, and I want to track them all. I could create my account, could be any name, and I can get a new property. So that way I have one place to come to look at all of them. Maybe they're related, maybe they're not. So that's how I create get the new tracking code for each of my websites. So these are called properties. Think of it as like real estate, right? My web page is really web real estate. So I need an ID number to track each one. I can have users. So if I want to, I could sign up a Dodd to be a user on this account, so he could log in and see information about this website. So if you're running a business, maybe there's 2 partners, each one of them want to have access to the same data, you can create new users. So I would just click on new user, I would add their information, I can set them as a user or an administrator. Administrator means they can add other users and delete things. So if you only want people to see it, make them a user. If you want them to be able to manage things, make them an administrator. So, but again, probably a little more advanced, but just wanted to show you that. Filters. And here's where we start getting into the complicated. I just want to show you what it is. We could create filters whereby we can include or exclude information that's coming into analytics. Because everything that comes into analytics, it could be generated from anywhere. So maybe I own a company, mycompany.com, and I have people internally, all my employees might use the website, and maybe I have customers who might use the website. So I could create filters to, maybe I want to exclude all the information from people coming from my website internally. I can do that because, right, you could see different scenarios where, like, I'm interested in how much people are using my website, but for different reasons. So if I'm trying to sell something, I don't want to know how much my employees are using the website because they're probably not buying anything, but they're using it for work. So I want to exclude that data, so I could use a filter. It doesn't delete the data, it just filters it out, right? You can wear sunglasses that filter out the sun and the harmful rays. That's really what we're doing here. Or I can include traffic. So I could set up different filters, and this is a little more advanced, so I'm just going to say it and we'll kind of move on. But I could use these filters to include or exclude data. So maybe I only want to see, I want to see how much my employees are using the website, because maybe there's tools there that they need to use. So I want to look at what my customers are doing, I want to look at what my employees are doing, but I don't want to look at it all together because then it doesn't make sense. You know, are my employees using what they're supposed to? That's one thing, and are customers coming to my site and buying things? That's a different question. So I could use filters to manage the data. Data sources. So again, more of an advanced complex, but I just want to show you where it's at. If you're using AdWords, AdWords is a Google product. It's a way of advertising your business on the web. So and there's lots of different variations on this from other companies, but we'll keep it simple. Basically, you tell Google, I'm willing to pay $4 to have someone click on a link from my website. So if I can do the meta words like I showed you early on that says, I'm a plumbing contractor in Evergreen Park, but I could also sign up for something like AdWords, which would say, hey, there might be other plumbers in the area, and I'm willing not only to have when someone does a search, I'm not only willing to have my name come up, but I'm willing, you know, when you do a search, you get all your search results on Google, and all search engines work a little differently. And then over here on the right, I should probably just do it. You get the little ads, you know what I'm talking about? And I almost always ignore them.
Yes.
Well, people don't totally ignore them. And the thing that I like about Google is it's not in your face. If you use other websites, you might get pop-ups and things scrolling across, or you'll see Google's very good, in my opinion, at giving you the results of what you want, but also saying, hey, we have advertisers, but it separates that out. You should look at a Google page and know that I'm looking at just data that's generated from Google and then advertisements that's generated from Google. Because nothing's free, right? They have to make their money somehow. You had a question, sir?
Yeah, I was just wondering, so really, for your website, you have to sell some product, right? Like if I offer a service, like say plumbing, I can see who's coming to my page, but I really can't.
Well, no, that's still good information to have. Are you talking about the AdWords or the analytics?
The analytics.
No, analytics is still relevant, whether it's a product or a service or even an organization. If you run an organization, I do.
The library, we have analytics on that.
Yeah, the library or Boys and Girls Club or something like that. And hey, I want to know, is the community engaged in my website? Do they like it? Are they coming to it? Is my information relevant? Are the same people coming back, or is it just new people? What pages are they looking at? I could put up a really great website and all these great information, and when I look at my analytics, no one's coming to it. Well, why is that? Or maybe they came to it originally, but no one's coming back to it. So when I first launched, I had a lot of hits, and then the next month, none. Well, or not too many. Why? This is a tool that will help us start.
I can see where they're coming. Maybe they're clicking on my website from Chicago.
Right, and yeah, and we'll show you. You can get lots of different types of information.
That also translates into the real world too. So, say for example, like he's saying, a plumbing company. If you're going out and doing plumbing jobs here and there,
right,
you're handing out business cards because you invested in those business cards because you say, okay, well, this is how I get more business. You hand out business cards, magnets, whatever marketing tools you have.
Right.
If you're handing them out and all of a sudden you start handing them out and you see a spike in your website, in business and in your website hits, then you know that marketing tool is working. So you can either continue to do it, or if it's not working, if you don't see that spike, you say, okay, you know what, I'm just wasting my money here, I'm gonna go try to do something else.
So it's actually, it's in conjunction with.
Yeah, you can use it in conjunction with any different type of marketing tool for anything. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a sale per se. If you're selling, they have tools for that, but you can take that data or leave it however you want. I mean, there's a lot of tools there. You can take the tools, the only ones that work for you, or you can, just ignore the rest of them.
Because remember,
the cool thing is that it's all, like, you can modify it to tailor it to yourself, what you do.
Yeah.
because remember, your web presence is really just one part of your overall marketing strategy, right? You might be in you might be in the phone book, you might have newspaper ads, you have your business cards, your magnets, you're going to the Chamber of Commerce and going to their their events and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different things. This is just one piece, the web part.
Yeah.
But a lot of it integrates, right? So if you're using social media, how does that integrate with driving people to my website? Because it's all about being effective, whether it's a for-profit or non-for-profit. It's all about information and getting people to use your services, or whether it's, like I said, profit or non-profit. So, this is just one aspect, but everything kind of fingers out. So my business.
You can hand out cards like he was saying to see if it's working.
Right, and what you can do with analytics is you can have different landing pages. So maybe, or you could have different sites even. There's different strategies you can use. So you can say, okay, the website on my business card is going to take them to a specific site on my web page, and I can use analytics to know, like, hey, if this page is getting hit a lot, I know the people who are using my business cards are checking out my site.
Yeah.
So, but the business card, maybe they never come to your site because they don't feel like they need to because they have your business card there. But maybe you're doing advertisements in a newspaper and you want to see, maybe have a special offer, so you have a link right to that offer. You can use analytics. Are people really using that? Are they going to that? So we can use different pages and different strategies to monitor what people are looking at your webpage. It's all about evaluating analytics. That's what it means, right? It's all about analyzing the data of how people are using my website.
And you can use it as, like I was thinking, like income stream. If you try to get as many people as possible to your site, you can use that AdSense, right?
That's what AdSense is. You can actually sell ads onto your website. So maybe my son is a gamer and they have YouTube sites and they put up sites where they put up their own clips, and some of the people that do that actually generate revenue off their webpage using a product like AdSense, because they're putting up something that a lot of people are interested in. And a product like AdSense says, okay, people who are coming to this website are interested in these things, and it puts up ads. Someone clicks on that because they're willing to pay with AdWords.
Mm-hmm.
They're willing to pay for a click, and then Google shares, or other sites share, a very, very tiny portion of that revenue with that person. So you can generate income off your website if you wanted to do that. But in terms of AdWords, you're willing to pay. You're the person willing to pay when you use AdWords. So it's very relevant, theoretically, when you sign up for AdWords, you tell it, I'm willing to pay this much per click, this much per month for people who are searching for this. So, and what's nice about it is you can integrate this into your analytics account. So, my brother runs a business and he wants to know, okay, well, are people buying? I'm paying 50 cents, $1, a quarter, $5, whatever per click, and I'm spending $50, $100, $200 a month on this advertising. Is it worth it? Because it may or may not be. So you want to so you can integrate this into your Google Analytics account. Again, this is going more advanced. I'll just cover this if you need to. If you're at this place, you probably know more about it already, and you'd be able to then learn more about it. Because notice that within a lot of areas there's links. So even if you get to an area you're like, oh, this is really interesting, how do I do this? you can link to more information. I'll show you how to get more help too. So that way you can start to leverage these tools, because we just don't have enough time here to go into every detail of every piece of analytics. And then the last thing here is account settings. So this is just basic information. It gives me my Google Analytics account ID, my account name, and then some other things that I can check here. The last thing I want to cover on here is settings. So again, this is my end user settings. This is just information about my account. Probably the biggest thing is
Sorry, can you just show me again how did you go into edit? Where did you click first?
so from my home page, when I first log in, I can click on the admin button. And then I click on my account that I want to monitor. In your case, you'll probably just have one. And then from here, I can go to account settings. Is that the one you were looking for?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the next thing I did is I went up here to settings. So this is sort of information about my accounts that I have websites set up with. But this button up here or the link up here for settings is just general settings about my Google Analytics account. And probably the one thing is, if you'll get email offers. If you don't want them, you can check the button here and uncheck it and click save, and now I won't get offers from Google. But I like to get the offers actually, because it usually has like, hey, did you know you can do this? And when I feel like exploring, then I can click on the link and find out more information about another part of the tool that maybe I didn't know about. Yes, do you have a question? Yep. Okay. So that's sort of the big picture landscape of analytics.
Quick question.
Yeah.
I noticed that you have on the right-hand side, it says recent blog posts. Are
Mhm.
those blogs that somebody else has written out in the on the internet that are related to my site or my meta words, or is that something that I've only linked to certain people who write blogs, and then that just sends me the blogs I want to follow? I'm just trying to figure out what it is.
In essence, this is really advertising.
Oh, I see.
Most of these are posted by the Google Analytics team, which is the section of Google that takes care of analytics. There are obviously different parts of Google, and different people are in charge of different parts of it. And these guys put out a blog, and just for your convenience, they put it in the Google Analytics section. And they have different tips. Sometimes what happens, what's good with Google is that you don't have to update. They will update it for you since it's all online. So this, maybe 10 months ago, was completely different. So what they did is they keep adding different blog posts to keep you up to date on certain things. Maybe certain tips, like this is insights, certain things that are going on in the community, in the web community. So that's just to keep you up to date.
Well, I think we're about almost halfway through. Just show of hands. I mean, we're all adults. We can get up and take a break if we need one, and we can keep going, or we can just take a break now if you want. Everyone want to just keep going?
Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah, there's a lot of information to cover, right?
Bathrooms are across the hall.
Yeah, so if you get up, if you feel like you need to get some fresh air or do whatever, that's fine. It's not high school. Okay, so that gets us through sort of section 3 here. Now, I'm just going to check out my links to see what it is. Okay, that's just a link to the site. And probably the last thing, the other two things I wanted to cover about navigating the landscape and administration of your analytics account is there's a lot of good help and even a series of presentations that Google has made available to help you get more familiar with the material. So I'll show you the help first. So right up here you'll see a help button, and a lot of times you'll see help right within the area that you're at. So, and I'll use this in context a little bit later, but I can click on the help and it's going to pop open a window, and it's going to kind of give me a big picture of Google Analytics at this point. So, so increased conversions is where we're at now, but I could click on control data, and it's going to change the content I see here. So if I want to learn more about, or if I want to see some examples, or if I want to learn more about the tools, or what real-time monitoring is, I can just click on that anytime. It's very detailed, and what's nice about it is as they update the product, they update the help. So if they add new features or things have changed, I noticed in the video I showed some things have already changed over time. The interface changes slightly, or where things might be at change slightly. They're pretty good about updating the help. So even if you go home tomorrow and you're looking at this going, oh, I don't really remember, just click on the help button and you'll come up to this page. So
do they offer live help? I mean, say for example you had a website going for a couple of years. Does Google offer,
it'd probably be very difficult. If you were having a problem, you could probably get some help, like if something was broken or not working right, which does happen from time to time. You could probably contact them for support. The problem with, and it's not just Google, the problem with a lot of sites that offer free resources or very inexpensive resources is you don't get the support. So of course you could always hire somebody, or usually the help is pretty good. But Google's pretty good, and most companies are. If you're really having a legitimate problem, chances are you're not the only one. But usually you can find a contact or support page. I know if you have a paid-for Google Apps account and you're having problems, part of what you get for paying is you get technical support. So it just depends on the product that you're using and whether or not you're paying for it. And we can understand that, right? They offer a lot of stuff for free. It's not really free because they're generating ad revenue, around what you're using. But they can't support a whole country of people for free, So it just depends on what you're doing. But what's great about this, and even it's not just Google, but any good legitimate site or service, even if it's free, they're going to have good help. So when you're choosing products, look at what kind of online help they offer. It's frustrating sometimes when you do pay for something and you still can't get help, whether it's free online help or you call somebody, right, and you're on the phone for 20 minutes and you're still talking to a computer. But that's just sort of the nature of things sometimes. So I can get some help here. And then the other place I wanted to show you was the what they call Google Analytics IQ. So if you go to this link, you'll come here to a web page, what's called Analytics IQ, and you can actually take tests if you want. And if you're going to take the test, they recommend you study all this information. But you can come through here and, for example, working with data, what you'll learn, you click on that, and it'll show you what you can expect to get out of that training video. And then if you click the link, you can actually, we won't watch this all here because you could do this from home, but you'll get one of these little...
Use the calendar to set your active date range, the time period for which you want to look at data. Select date ranges by clicking on the day and month.
So you can come in here and get reinforcement for some of the things you learned today, or get new material that we didn't cover.
Active until you change it.
Okay, and I've listened to that one, and I know my voice isn't the most dynamic voice out there, but hers definitely put me to sleep, but I guess I shouldn't be so critical. Sort of going back to our agenda, so you want to use a checklist, you'll want to use the help site, you'll want to use that IQ site to watch the videos if you want to get more in depth. And again, all that's on your agenda, and it's linked if you go to the online version. It's linked there just to make it easier for you, because sometimes typing in long addresses is not always fun. So if you go to the online version, you just click on the link and that'll take you right to it. Okay, now what we all paid for, the analytics, actually analyzing the data. So I got a couple of websites here. So I'm going to click on my property. So again, I went home, I logged in, and then I can see my accounts, and I'm clicking on my property, and I'm going to click on this one, all website data. You'll only likely have one. So here is actually, I come to, actually kind of remembers where I left off. I'm going to start up here with dashboards. So just kind of a broad overview here. The home button takes me back to my accounts. If I want to switch between my accounts and my properties, I can do that from this button right along the top bar here. So if I want to jump back and forth without going to the home page, I can do it here. I'm now in the reporting page. I can also customize what I see, but we're not going to really do that because we're not really that savvy. Here's my admin, help, and settings that I already covered. So this top menu bar is changed a little bit, but it's added some more features by clicking on an actual web property, and I am now in the reporting section. First thing you probably want to notice is there's a date range over here. I just added a Google Analytics ID to this website last Friday or Saturday. So this is the one where I had a 100% increase over last month. That's because it wasn't tracking it last month. So, wow, great, right?
Yeah.
Got to know it, and this is why we're here. We want to know what the data means. So I'm actually going to change the dates. So I just click on the little arrow here on the dates, and I can customize what I'm looking at. So if I'm running analytics for 2 years, and I have different ad campaigns, I can look over time to see, and I can actually run comparisons, right? Because it's all thinking all about how do I get people to come and use my website, buy stuff, use my services, get information about my organization, whatever it is that your goal is. So I'm going to click on beginning date, which is the first box there, and when I click on that, it highlights the second box. I'm going to click on an end date. So I'm just looking at January 12th through the 13th or the 19th, which was last Saturday to today. And I'm going to click apply. So notice now my data changes a little bit, right? It looks a little bit like I'm running a good website here because I got something to look at, not a lot of blank space. So I am now in my dashboard. The dashboard is just simply a device to look at things a certain way. So you can imagine you're driving your car, you have your dashboard, right? Mm-hmm. It's got your speed and your oil pressure and maybe your battery strength, whatever is on your dashboard, your mileage, it's looking one way. But you could buy a different model car, it basically has the same information, right? But it looks different because it has a different dashboard. So you can set up different dashboards because you might be interested, if you have a more complex site, at looking at the same information in different ways by a click. Because you can go through and you can generate all these things and you can add them to one dashboard, but it might get cluttered or it might be tedious to every time you log in to recreate a certain type of report or information. So what you can do is you can create a dashboard and then you can customize it. You can add widgets and segments. One real quick thing about segments is when I click on segments, think of it as segments of your data, right? So, and these are sort of almost like filters that you can apply to your data. It doesn't delete or modify your data anyway, it just changes the way you're looking at it. So I can change my date range to get a certain period of time, and I can change my segments. So maybe I want to look at a certain period of time and only look at returning customers. Because I want to know, are returning customers coming back to my site and what are they looking at? As opposed to maybe what new customers are doing. So these are just tools that you can use, and by default it'll be all visits. And as you change those segments, it will change the way you view your information. Again, it doesn't really delete anything. So if I'm only looking at new visitors, I'll just see this information as it relates to new visitors. So a couple of things on my dashboard, which may or may not be that exciting, but I like this example because it's colorful, right? Percentage of new visitors by browser. You know what a browser is? It's a tool you use to surf the internet, right? Well, there's lots of different ones, and it may or may not be important to you. Maybe you provide technical support to Mac users. Mac users use Safari on their Macs. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because it's the built-in browser. Just like Internet Explorer is the built-in browser in the Windows, right? So if this information was relevant to you, right away, I know that I can see this is new visits by browser. So what browser are people using? Actually, this is important because if you're developing a website, sometimes things don't always work on every browser. It's really annoying and frustrating. If you ever go to a website and it doesn't work right because you use Firefox or Chrome or something, all of a sudden you log in with Internet Explorer and then it works. It's because that website, whatever it is, maybe you're logging into your bank, they designed that code to work with Internet Explorer. Don't know why people do that, but sometimes that's the case where certain things work in better browsers. So it might be useful to know what people are using. So if all your users are using Safari, then you're going to want to make sure your website works with Safari. Yes, sir.
When you showed us earlier Weebly and also Google Sites, if we use one of those to set up our website, does that automatically tend to make the site work with most of those browsers? And if it doesn't, is there a way of doing that so that no matter what somebody's using to see, say, my business website, it's going to come out all right and not cause them problems?
Well, Weebly and Google Sites are pretty much across the board. There is no special code that they add that works better in one or the other that I know of. I know, well, I use Chrome a lot, and Weebly seems to work really well in Chrome, but I haven't really tested it on Internet Explorer. But they try really hard to make sure that it's across the board. They don't try to add any extra code in there that will only work in Explorer, for example. They try to stay away from stuff like that.
Yeah, you're probably not too worried about this metric, and that's one of the words you'll see, metrics, right? It's a measurement. So this is a particular measurement about information about the people using your website. This is a nice example because it's colorful and it gives us shows us the capabilities, but it's probably going to be more rare. My favorite term for this topic is someone said, well, our site is browser agnostic. So it doesn't matter what browser you're using. That's what you're going for. You're right if you have a problem. But you will find from time to time, usually where it's something you have to log into, create an account, and do something, a lot of times those might work better on one browser or another. But for the most part, from what the vast majority of us are using, it doesn't matter too much. So I don't want to get bogged down into that too much.
Question.
Yes.
Android browser. What is that?
It's my Android smartphone.
So if you didn't have an Android smartphone, but a different type of smartphone, it'd be listed there?
Yeah, did you visit this site on your...
Safari. Safari is the only other...
That's what would come up on an iPhone?
On an iPhone.
Yeah. So Safari is sort of across the board Mac. So whether you're on a Mac or you're on an iPhone or maybe even an iPad. I know the iPads use Safari only.
Yeah.
And there is an app for Chrome on some of the smartphones as well. So you could probably use any one of those, Androids, Chrome, or Safari.
Okay.
Even if you don't have an Android phone, you can download the Chrome browser onto your smartphone and use it.
Okay. Excuse my ignorance. What's a smartphone? What defines it? Is a BlackBerry? Like I have a BlackBerry. Is that a smartphone?
A smartphone is just simply a device. It's a phone, and it usually connects to the internet. You can run apps and
so
all those
if
things.
I was hitting the site from my BlackBerry, how would it look? What browser?
You know, I'm not really sure,
Okay.
to be honest with you, but
The reason I'm bringing it up, it's interesting to know if people are hitting your site from a cell phone, a smartphone,
Yeah.
Right.
or they're sitting at a workstation, depending upon your product or service.
and actually, yeah, that's something I didn't consider in this example. There are other tools that will tell us, are our customers using mobile devices? Because that is important, right? If you generate your site and it's a nice big, maybe you sell art, maybe you're an artist and you sell art and you have really nice, beautiful website, but you look at it on a cell phone and it's, so maybe you're going to host an event where you're selling your art and you want people to go to your website while they're there or afterwards. If you might want to customize your site to a smart device. And actually that's probably more relevant as to which browser I'm using. Is it a computer or is it a smart device? And more, the whole nature of advertising and the internet is changing because people are more and more using their smart devices to access the internet, even at home. Yes?
Quick question in regards to the mobile. Could you just do a quick test to see with your event segments to see, click the mobile, see if the visits are from a smartphone?
Yeah, you want to go to this?
Well, I'm saying from your event segments, I know the reporting was there from your reporting when you showed it.
Oh, you saw the mobile phone? Okay. Yeah, there are different ways to generate this data or to look at it. So I'm going to look at mobile traffic. And they have tablet traffic too, and I'm not sure what the distinction is. Tablet meaning like iPad, Kindle Fire, devices like that.
Also, a quick side note about Weebly. Weebly does a very good job of going really across platform. I can get onto my Weebly site very easily and navigate around very well using my phone. As you can see.
Okay, so good catch. Excellent example. You're making my life easy. So what we see here now is instead of looking at all the traffic, I'm looking at mobile traffic and its percentage of visits. So 35% of the visits to this site are using mobile devices, and this is the browser they're using. So these are probably iPhones, these are smartphones, and then these are the Chrome browser. And I use the Chrome browser on my smartphone. And a lot of this data is probably me and a dot, to be honest with you. We're not that popular.
How does it determine returning customers? Do you know?
I'm sorry, what's the first
When
part?
when you did the filter, and it said returning customers, how does it?
It knows because the gentleman that brought up the cookie issue before, it will know, it'll read that cookie and it'll know if you've ever been to that website before.
Can you
Now,
use multiple filters?
yes. So you could say returning users using smartphones.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm saying. We're just going to try to stick with the basics here. We're already doing one example, but you can see how powerful it is. And I've only been collecting data for a week. Yes.
Can you define, I'm sure help tells you, but can you define bounce rate? What does that mean?
Bounce rate. Good, excellent question. Bounces are events where someone comes to your site, looks at one page, and leaves your site. So it's kind of like a bounce. So if you're looking at bounce rates, you probably want really small bounce rates, right? Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I can think of two, like if your site links to another site, say you come to the library catalog through the library website, that's probably a bounce rate because you're leaving our site and going to the catalog, which is hosted on another.
If it's not all tracked by the same Google Analytics ID, then yes, it'll be a bounce.
Right, but you have no control, or like the library.
You have no control. A perfect example is my personal website that I told you that I have with my Google Marketplace. I'm using Analytics ID to track my Google Marketplace hits and my actual Google site that I created that just has my contact information on it. So when I was playing around with this, I was just hitting my personal website. It's only one page. So by default, everybody that visits that page is 100% bounce. But what I noticed is that other people were hitting my Google Marketplace website. So there's, I think, 2 pages associated with that, plus a link to my personal webpage. So in essence, my ID is tracking 3 web pages. So when I was testing it, I was just going to my one Google Sites page, and then I'd go someplace else or close the browser. That's a bounce. But if people go to my my marketplace website and they're looking at my ad on the marketplace and then clicking on my personal website, then my bounce rate decreased significantly. But you're right, and sometimes there may be nothing you can do about a bounce.
On the bounce, is it possible to see, let's just say I have a marketing website or a business website, is it possible to see where most of the bounces tend to go, which other specific sites? So I could see if they're my competition or if they're something that I may want to contact and get them as a business partner?
Yeah, I think there might be somewhere in here where we can look at like exiting websites. It might not give you 100% of the information. So, like I said, there are so many different tools.
I'm sure you can pay for it.
I'm trying to think if I've seen that one off the top of my head. We might find that when we come around to it. I do remember seeing something about an exiting website. I know for sure, and I can look that up too, sir, and I can get back to you on that. I'm almost positive there's some information there. It may not be as good as we want, but one thing we can look at is where people are coming from. Are they coming from a search? Are they coming from an AdWord? So all of those things, you can see where people are coming from, for sure. So, so you want low bounce rates.
Yeah, can I ask you, if they're bouncing, maybe they don't like your website. Maybe
Exactly.
they don't like the way it's set up.
That's why you don't. That's why bounce rates are important, and that's why you want a low percentage of them. And you can see what pages people are going to the most. And I'm going to kind of get ahead of myself, but one thing you can do is you can look at content, and that's the pages that people are looking at. So I can see what pages on my website, my top 10 web pages. And notice here, one of the things I see is bounce rates. So my bounce rates from my content is a certain percentage. So chances are, like just the slash or the slash index, that's my homepage. So, and I'm sure I could probably get savvy and do things here. One thing you'll notice is, and I feel like I'm jumping around now, but these are good questions. So I'm looking at page views. I can look at bounce rates, and I can compare that. So in this particular graph, I could look at bounce rates versus unique page views. So you got to know the terminology, and you got to really think about it, like, because you can throw in all kinds of things here, but are the graphs I'm looking at, do they make sense? You know, I can graph any kind of information, but what is the information to tell me? Does it make any kind of sense? So here, just picking one, I'm looking at bounce rates and unique page views. So I can see that the bounce rate is the blue color. So on this day, I had this many unique page views, which it looks like it's maybe about 20% of my overall page views. And I had a real high bounce rate. So I could dig into the data and maybe see what pages people were looking at that day. So over this period of time, I had 101 page views. 63 of them were unique, meaning that someone new looked at a page, or a returning user looked at a different page. It's unique. That means that a unique means they've only looked at it one time, or that. So if I come back and I'm returning and look at the same page a second time, there's only one unique hit, because if I've looked at the same page twice, only one of them could be unique. So you don't want to, some things you don't want to double count. If someone keeps coming back and looking at the same web page 10 times, only one of them is a unique hit. So because they're reviewing the same information. It's like unique visitors. I might have 20 visitors in a day, and 10 of them are unique or new visitors. Yes,
Sorry,
ma'am?
I think you just answered it.
Okay. Lots of data to look at. So let me try to make sure I'm kind of staying on track here. So I showed you about segments. You can email reports. You can export the data. We saw that in the intro video. If I create something, I can add it to my dashboard so I don't have to create that same metric or that same view over and over again. I can look at my chart hourly or weekly or monthly. And of course, if you don't have a lot of data, some of these views won't work. I'm only looking at 1 week of data up here, the last week. So looking at a month view doesn't make any sense in this case. So I want to see what's happening day to day over the last week. So I probably don't want to look at a day-to-day chart of what's happened over the last year because it's going to be really hard to read. So you can just sort of zoom in and zoom out basically is what these things are doing. So this is in my dashboard. Another thing I can do for my dashboard is I can click, if I click on the date, I can click the compare. And now what it's going to do is it's automatically going to say the blue is what I was looking at initially. And when I click compare previous period, so I was looking at 1 week, so it's going to compare the previous week.
And this is where you could, that example with the business cards that you're handing out. Let's say the first week you weren't handing out anything, and then after the 12th or whatever the date was, you start handing those out and you see a spike, then you know it's working.
So, and obviously I told you I didn't install this until last week. So what it's going to show, and like Adad said, it's going to show what happened 1 week versus the other week. So if I had data from the previous week, I could compare it because maybe I had an advertising event. I was at an expo and I was handing out my business card and I wanted to see, or I was handing out literature and I wanted to see if people were going from my literature to my website.
Yeah, that was another question. Campaign analytics for that. So you did hand something out, you had a special web address or campaign ID to that. That's what you want to track as well. But what if you're running an email campaign? How's that comparable and tracked also? Do you need to run two?
Well, it's the same thing. What you can do is you can go in and add notes.
Okay.
They call them annotations.
Okay.
So you could say, all right, on January 13th, I use Constant Contact, or what's the free one?
MailChimp.
MailChimp, yes. I use MailChimp, and I send out to all my customers, a newsletter. And I want to know, is it being effective? And they actually have statistics built in, how many people clicked on it, and that sort of thing. So if you're using other tools, you can get statistics that way. And sometimes those might be more relevant to what you're looking at. This is overall website traffic, again, depending on how you look at it. So here's my comparison, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply this to my personal website because I had data. I've actually had that set up for a long time, the analytics. So I can see here there's actually some data. I had, looks like 12 page views on I guess that would be the 13th. So the previous week I had, it looks like maybe one, or I think I had 6 total change in page views. It says 0%. So that doesn't quite look right to me. Although it says, another thing you can do is, I haven't even showed you this. You can scroll down and it'll show you, I think we've looked at this a little bit, it'll show you then the statistics based on those. So graphs is just one way of looking at it. Something I meant to mention earlier, keep in mind that this is not a perfect exact science. So not everything is recorded perfectly. Trying to think of a good example.
It's okay, it's free.
Well, sometimes things happen. But if you're generating a fair percentage of fair amount of traffic, and for some reason a data event gets sort of lost or not recorded, or the wrong information kind of gets recorded, if it's 1 out of 1,000, it's going to be a very small percent. So, but you got to keep that in mind, you know, when you're looking at all these different metrics. So really, what am I looking at? Because there's so many choices, and it's so easy to click on things that, what am I really looking at here? And what do I want to measure? It's a good idea to go into this knowing, what do I really want to measure? And for most of us, probably the first thing is just page visits and new versus returning users. We can get into AdSense, we can get into other, you know, marketing campaigns and stuff like that, but it takes time and effort to sort of build up on all this and to kind of put the various pieces together, because it does a lot for you, but it doesn't know everything you're doing to generate traffic. Am I forgetting or missing anything? So this is just the dashboard, and again, this is sort of, however I set up my dashboard, maybe I have 3 or 4 things that I always want to look at about my website. I want to put those in my dashboard so that way I see them every time I log in and go to my dashboard, so I don't have to recreate things. I'm not going to cover shortcuts. Intelligent events, I'll just touch on that briefly. These are really just ways of looking at things. I don't even know. Let's use our help.
Can I ask you a quick question? Is this Google Analytics, is it free, or do you have to pay a fee for it?
The basic product is free. So you can pay for like AdWords, which is a way of advertising, and I think they have some more advanced features that you can pay for, but everything I'm showing you is with a free account. So the intelligent events, there's 4 reports: the daily, the overview, the weekly events, and they're sort of generic alerts. So let's say you wanted to know every time that your website traffic dropped below 100 unique visitors. You're generating a lot of traffic to your website, and or in my case, not so much, but I want to know every time, you know, my page visits drops below a certain number, because I want to know, you know, what happened. You know, I got to think back. Did I stop handing out business cards? Did I forget to send out my monthly newsletter? You know, so these are sort of predefined events that you can look at. So, and this is a good example of where you get to something and you're not really sure what it is or how to use it. You can click on the help. I just did a quick search for intelligence up here, and I was able to pull this up, and you can drill into all, you know, into interpreting alerts and creating custom alerts. Maybe you want to set up an alert, okay, every time it drops below 100, send me an email. Because if people aren't looking at my webpage, my phone's not ringing, and I might notice that, but I might not right away. So it's just a way of sort of automating the process to help you analyze your website. One of the cool features here is, and keep going, is real-time reports.
Is that your Cannizzo one?
Actually, I'm on the Dundee one, I think, right? No, I'm on Cannizzo. Let me switch to Dundee.
So the real time is, we can do a live demo right now. It'll show you exactly right now who's hitting your site. So I've got my laptop over here, and I'm going to go to his site.
And I just clicked on it from my mobile phone. So what you'll see over here.
If you look, that's me right there.
So he just clicked on it, and now this is the age of how long someone's been on the site. So we have 2 hits going on right now, 2 visitors on the site. And I forget the details. I think if I just sat here on my computer or phone for a half an hour, I would drop off. because analytics only records a half an hour of inactivity. So, and just so you know, the way it measures time on site is it measures the time you are on one page on your website, because that's one of the metrics, to the time I clicked on the next page on my website.
Can you scroll down a bit?
Yep.
For the map, it gives you a generalized location.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go over and see where we are?
I think there's actually let me just do something else that I wanted to show real quick. Okay. Somewhere in here there's words. It's not telling me. Oh, I can go into locations. So notice under real time here, there's different ways of looking at the real time data. I can go into locations. And where did I see that data?
You click on the country on the map itself.
Ah, there we go. So for some reason, one of us is coming from Rockford. He's on his phone, I'm on my phone, he's on his laptop. And that probably has to do with what the gentleman brought up is the IP address and where you're. So I'm connected to my cell phone, and that I'm connected here to a local cell phone tower, but my data could be transported anywhere. So, and this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier, be careful of what you're looking at, because you need to know a little bit about the data you're looking at to know how useful it is. So, I mean, I get the general idea. If I'm a plumber in Evergreen Park and people are looking from California or Asia or something like that, then yeah, it's probably not really relevant to me.
You were just
So how can you use that data? I mean, as far as
Well, if I'm generating a lot of website traffic, you know, maybe I send out my constant contact thing, and you know, I want to see, are people clicking on it now? You can check back from time to time. I probably wouldn't sit here. It's really cool. It's a good example for a class. But I probably wouldn't sit here and watch this 24 hours a day. I would imagine it could be addicting, though, if you really wanted to know about that.
You were describing about the how it measures the time, and it was something about going from page to page. I'm sorry.
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I got off track. So one of the metrics is time on a page. So just so you know how it works, and it's very important with all of the data, but the way this particular metric works is you have to click on multiple pages for it to work. So if I go to one page and then I leave the site, that's a bounce, right? It's not going to be able to calculate. Even if I was on that page for 15 minutes, Google Analytics won't tell me how long I was on that page for. What it needs is for you to click on another page in that site. That's just the way it works. So if I'm on page A and then for 3 minutes and I click on page B, it knows the time between the two clicks. Now if I leave the site after going to page B or close the browser, it won't know how long I was on site B. It's just the way it works. So if I go to 3 pages, A, B, and C, it'll tell me how long I was on A and how long I was on B, but not on C. So that last page, you never get an account for it. So,
you're mentioning pages. Is it possible in that to, all right, let's just say a person spends a lot of time on page 2, but on page 2 there are a bunch of different things. Maybe there's a little, I don't know, well, whatever it is. Is it possible to see which part of page 2 the visitors like the most, or is it only just within the one page, and I'd have to kind of figure out what works on page 2?
yeah, I don't believe so.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you'd have to probably separate the information on that page, you know, into 2 pages. You know, so maybe maybe it's information about a product, and then you want to have, if they're interested in buying it, they would click more information, and it would then take you to a second page. Then you could sort of analyze the 2 pages. But if it's just 1 page, it's just going to show 1 page. So I can look at traffic sources, which are like, where did the traffic come from? So direct means someone typed in that website address and went directly to that site. If it was a search, it would show a search. So let's see if I can.
So it's still in real time.
Yeah, we're still in real time. And there's probably a better example of this, but let me see if we can do this real quick. Did you do a search, Adad?
I did. Oh, it's not coming up.
Yeah, it's showing direct traffic. That's interesting. So, just goes to prove that, you know, that it's not perfect and it doesn't always come up with. But there are other links. Again, I'm kind of jumping around. But if I go to traffic sources, and now my date range changed. But now I can see that over time, people have come to my sites in different ways. So it was a referral from another website. So that's one way. So if you say, hey, you know, I'm a plumbing contractor and you're a renovation general contractor or something, let's work together. And part of doing that is I'll put the link for your site on my site and my site on your site. So then you'll be able to see if people go to that other website and click on the link, you'll be able to see how effective that is. Because for whatever that's worth. So you have your direct websites, you have searches from different search providers, and then direct links. And this gets more complicated once you start adding in AdWords and other advertising campaigns. And there's like a social media component search in here, which I haven't used. So these are all, that's a traffic source. So again, these are under standard reports. So I have my real time. So I can also do my real time for pages. So I can see what pages people are on at certain times. That's content. Again, traffic sources and locations are other views of looking at real-time data. I can look at my audience. So just the general. So generally speaking, again, I don't have data from before last week, but it really doesn't matter because it would be the same. But 15 people have visited my site, 18 visits, so that means 18 minus 15 is 3. So 3 people have returned to my website. I've had 76 page views. That means people have clicked on different pages of my website, 76 page views. So pages per visit is about 4. How long they've spent, I believe that's 1 minute, 16 seconds, 0.55. The bounce rate and the percentage of new visitors, which is really just this, right? 15 divided by 18 is going to give you 83%. So this is demographics, right? That's where I'm at. So this is the overview, and part of that overview is just telling me a little bit more all the hits have come from the US. What else? Oh, that's language. Location, okay, on the map. Let's see if we can get more information. Oh, someone from Texas looked at my website. So But again, it's you know, it's a local organization, so I'm not expecting data from other places, so that's fine with me. But if
you
you're
may get some stray hits, like a lot of people get stuff from Brazil. For some reason, people in Brazil, they're not going to be looking for a graphic designer in Illinois. They're just not going to do it. But it may be just a random search hit, or maybe maybe servers kind of go out and look for stuff, and things bounce around on the internet all the time. They might hit your website, but again, that's where the bounce rate comes in. You know, sometimes, usually those things just kind of hit your site and leave. They don't, you know, look around or anything. But that's where you would get stuff in strange places around the world.
So you can look at other types of audience information like new versus returning. So maybe you get a lot of new visitors, they buy something once or they call you once but they don't return. You know, if you sell houses or cars, you know, maybe that's what you want, because the time between people buying a new car or a house is a large amount of time. If you're selling, you know, you have a cleaning service, you know, you're going to want people hitting your website more frequently, because hopefully they're cleaning every week or every month as opposed to once a year with your service. Here we got the mobile. So it looks like about 7 out of the 18 visits were with a mobile device. Again, depends on what your site is and whether or not that's important. Might not be relevant to you. And it even has devices. Ooh, a Motorola Zoom. That wasn't me. The Samsung, that's me. So I'm guilty of visiting my own site.
What kind of dark?
I'm not sure what visitors flow is. I don't remember seeing that actually. Oh, wow.
Holy cow.
So it tells you what page they started at, and then what page they went to next. So 10 started here, and then 3 of them went down to here, more pages, but 2 of them went to contacts, and it looks like 1 went to connect with us, which is like an information page, like get more information. So actually, wow, that's pretty cool. I'm not sure if that was new or just buried in there. But you can see there's lots of stuff.
And things like this, we say things that are new. We had a presentation where we were preparing for it the night before, and we had all these really nice screenshots, so our PowerPoint was really nice, and then the next day Google changed it right before our presentation.
Oh, my God.
I mean, they didn't completely change it, but the screenshots we had didn't look like what we were demoing on the screen, because we were showing like a PowerPoint, and we said, oh, let's take a live view, and wait a second, this button's not here, it's over here now. So that's, you know, that's the good and the bad sometimes about the technology is, right, the only thing that's constant is change. You know, things are changing so much, so quickly. I'm looking at the traffic sources now. So this is
How do you know if it's direct traffic or, I mean, the search traffic I understand, but how do they know it's direct traffic?
Direct traffic is when they know your URL, and they type it in directly.
So I can dig down here, I can see direct, referrals, search, and here's campaigns. And then in terms of search, it's broken down into organic, meaning they just searched Google or Bing or Yahoo, and organic, they found you sort of organically. And where you come up on a search engine page, if you're not paying for it, is based on many different factors. So, you know, there's a whole strategy to say, how do I get myself? So if someone's doing if people aren't going to pay for information, how do I get myself to the top? That's a whole nother class, you know. There's lots of different strategies to say if someone searches Evergreen Park Plumbers, how do I get my company to come up at least on the first page or the first 2 or 3, if not the first one. So that's an organic search. And then, of course, there's the paid searches, which there should be none because I don't pay to have people come to my site.
So if you're first starting out, would you suggest paying to get up top and get more traffic?
It just really, really depends on, you know, what your budget is and you know, how much business you want to do. You know,
So they know if when you
how
first start.
competitive things are, you know, how successful you are versus how successful you want to be. Marketing and paying for advertising is just part of doing business. So, you know, when you're small or you don't have a big advertising budget, at least with the analytics, you can determine if your budget's being spent in a good way. So notice that part of the paid advertising is the keywords. So you could set up AdWord where you advertise based on words. So Evergreen Park Plumber versus Evergreen Park Contractor. So, you know, you don't know how people are going to search. And just because I think that I would search this way doesn't mean everyone's going to do it that way. In fact, it's pretty likely people won't do it the way I do it. So I kind of get outside my head, maybe talk to other people. If you can do any kind of, you know, talk to your customers. Hey, this is why people ask you, how did you find us? You know, what are you using? Because the way I work is, you know, like I said, probably not the way other people work, and not for the better.
The good thing about Google Apps is that if you don't have a large budget for advertising and you can't, you know, maybe shoot yourself to the top, you can put in a lot of work and still be able to get the same thing. It'll just take a little bit more time. It might take you having to put links in different places. It might have, you know, you have to put the correct, you know, keep adding different keywords to see what changes, what doesn't. It's going to take you a little bit more work, but you can do it for free. Versus, you know, when you don't want to do all that work, you've got to worry about, you know, shipping things. You've got to worry about making your product, making sure that your employees are, you know, are doing their jobs and all that. You don't want to worry about that. So what you do, you pay AdWords to kind of shoot you to the top, and you don't have to worry about that.
Right. Or other more traditional marketing. You can put your web address in a newspaper ad, a phone book ad, on a business card. You know, so there are other ways, and it depends too. Your site may be very basic. It may be just almost like a yellow page ad. You know, it was a big thing, you know, 10, 15 years ago to have a website. Now it's almost just, if nothing else, they call it point of presence. Someone wants to know more about you, they've got to have some place to go. And so many people, that's the first thing they do. When I get the phone books, I recycle them, to be honest with you. And again, not everybody does that, but I look it up on the web. You know, I'm very computer oriented. Not everybody is like that. But you got to think about your customers and all of that. So if nothing else, you could, like Adad was saying, you can have a very inexpensive, you know, well-designed web page that you could do, or you could hire someone to do very inexpensively. It doesn't have to be an elaborate e-commerce site. If that's what you need, then obviously you got to pay for that or develop that yourself one way or the other. So, you know, there's just lots of different strategies to that. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
Yeah. You're mentioning costs now and budgets and so forth. I know earlier you mentioned that this really sort of analyzes the website after it's set up and so forth. Does it make a difference for a beginning business in terms of, well, I guess what I'm asking, do you have any recommendations or preferences for the host service where you actually have to pay to have the website hosted, or does it make a difference because they're all pretty much the same, in your opinion?
It all depends really on what your budget is, on what you want to do with your site. Certain sites like Weebly, you've got a really nice template. You can't really modify much of it. I mean, it's you choose if you want blue. It colors every page blue. You can't really modify it. That's kind of a downside sometimes. But you can go in there at any time, log in, and very easily move stuff around. If you wanted to go for something like a server where somebody actually built your site and you want to have all these custom things, then that's where you would go to someplace else.
Right, but I guess what I'm asking is not so much creating the site, but somebody brought up about GoDaddy or something, and you actually have to pay a server to have, okay, after I create the site, or before I create the site, I've got to get a domain name.
Yeah.
What I'm asking is there a domain name service that seems to be more user-friendly for the low-budget beginning business, or does that make a difference? Because I think I understand what you're saying about Weebly and Google sites, but what I'm concerned about now is where do I put my money to actually have somebody host the site, and does that make a difference, or are they pretty much all the same?
I have gone with, I really like GoDaddy.com, and the reason I chose that one is for its customer service. I think it does a really, really good job of helping you if you're stuck in any aspect of your domain name. I've tried 1&1. I haven't liked them as much, but it's the same. It's the same as choosing Comcast over DirecTV. You're going to choose based on different aspects. So the reason I chose GoDaddy is because of that. I don't know if there's a difference in terms of features. GoDaddy has the same features as 1&1 does, or some of the other sites. I don't know.
Well, there's almost 3 things that you need to get a website started. If you want to say for your company, you're going to need a domain name. So you need someone to register that domain name. So you could use GoDaddy or 1&1, and there's many other ones out there. They all do the same basic thing. They'll take your money and assign a website address to you that's available. You can't pick, ChicagoTribune.com because someone's already got that. So that's a registrar. You need to have a host. So you need a server, someplace where you're going to store your website essentially. So there are lots of different website hosting companies. And then third, you need a way to develop your website. You can hire someone, you can do it yourself, you can use a product on your computer, you can use a product over the internet. Now, of those 3 things, a lot of sites like even GoDaddy or 1&1 or webs.com, a lot of these places will act as all 3. So you can go to GoDaddy and say, I want to register for this domain, and I want to pay you an extra fee to host my site, and I'm going to use your tools to create my site. So you can do that all in one place, or you can sort of pick and choose. I tend to use a service like GoDaddy to register my website, and then I'm going to pick the tool I want to use to create my website, and that's often the same as the web host. So if I'm using Weebly, part of the service, and it's for free, they'll host your website for free, and they'll give you the tools to develop it. You can also pay them for extra features.
How do they get their money?
Can we get back on track to what we're here to learn though today? I mean, I understand that people have a lot of questions, but is it supposed to be about Google Analytics?
Yes.
I mean, can we learn more about like the search engine optimization, things like that are going down the side here?
Yep. Well, that's a good point. Let's try to stay on track. I mean, all these things are related, but oops. So again, I'm probably not going to have any data here because I'm not using this tool. So this tool requires Webmaster Tools which is another piece of the Google piece. So it's a free product that helps you improve your website's search reports. So what you do is you click on that button, you sign up for website tools and data sharing. And then what it does is it sort of tweaks the data that comes back from when people are using the Google search. So, and then it'll give you more specific information, like about your landing pages. So someone does a search for my company, and I might have 20 web pages, and a lot of times when you do a search, it just won't show you the main site. It'll show you service, sales, products. So which page are people clicking on? That's the landing site, where they're landing when they're coming into the web page. So again, that's a whole nother branch of the piece here. And here, same thing here. Here's the social piece, and again, I'm not using this, but I could, because it gets complicated to. It gets complicated. It's not really hard to set up, but it requires you have different accounts with different things. So if you want to track what's coming in from Facebook or Twitter or Google Plus, which is the Google social website similar to Facebook, then you can set up your social relationships. That way, if you post something on Facebook or Twitter, people are clicking a link and coming back to your website, right? That's why a lot of people use them. That's how they use them for business. You might have a page on Facebook or a Twitter account associated with your business. I love the Twitter accounts with certain businesses because specifically for, like, a good example would be Weebly or GoDaddy, because sometimes they have problems. So some of the better companies, and I've suggested this to a few other companies and was rejected. But what I like about it is if I follow a company on Twitter, I don't just want to see how they're advertising. In my opinion, the smart companies have a Twitter account associated with their customer service. So when Weebly was experiencing problems or Amazon is experiencing problems, if you're a customer and you're paying for data, I don't want to find out because a customer calls me up and says, hey, your website's down. I want to subscribe to a Twitter service that if I have to be monitoring my Twitter account, but if I subscribe to that Twitter service, then when they have a problem, they're saying, hey, we have a problem, we know about it, we're going to take care of it. We think it's going to be an hour or 5 minutes, or here's what happened and here's how we fixed it. I appreciate that. I recognize that things are going to happen and everything isn't going to work 100% of the time. So if you're using social media, there's lots of different ways you can use it, and you can track it through this, but it requires that you set up other components, which are kind of beyond the scope of this course. And then again, that will tell you how effective those tools are. So you can advertise on Facebook, you can promote your page on Facebook. But if you are, what's the value you're getting out of that?
Facebook also has a paid version to where you can advertise just like you get on your timeline or whatever. You get little ads and things like that. You can actually track it using analytics depending on what you pay for in Facebook. So if you have an ad on Facebook and people are clicking that and you have the tracking software, your code and stuff embedded into that, you can track that they're coming directly from that site. So you can then evaluate, okay, is my advertisement actually working? Am I just getting all bounce rates because people are accidentally clicking, or what?
Yeah, the one thing you don't want to do is pay for a click and then get 100% bounce rate from that, right? So you don't want to pay for something and then someone clicked on your contractor's ad word, but then when they found out you're a plumbing contractor and not an electrical contractor, they hit the back button and left your site. So here we're looking at content. This is what I have in my web page, the content of my web page. So obviously that's important because I want to know what pages people are looking at. So, and again, getting into the analytics here, I don't know if this will make any sense. This is telling me percent page views. So I could be looking at content and unique page views versus average time on site. So again, you can click around and create a lot of graphs, but is what I'm looking at relevant to my business and that information I want to look at? So the main thing here is, what are people looking at on my webpage? And when too, right? So if I have a web page about, I'm with the Chamber of Commerce and we're having an expo, I want to know, are people looking at my expo page? And if so, when were they looking at it? The week before, were people looking at it? The month before? Are they looking at it after the fact? So you might have certain web pages, because you're always probably going to be adding and changing your website. So let's not forget that we can change the period of time that we're looking at, because that will affect our metrics and what we see.
Yeah, and if you notice, that little area up here, the date, will stay up there depending on any of the tools that you look at. So if you're looking at any of these reports at any different time, you can come up here and change the date range without changing any of the reports. So it'll go across the board, any of the reports you go up to, that little date range finder is going to stay up there no matter what report you go to.
So if I want to jump over to my other property, this is my personal one. Maybe I want to look at, might be easier just to type it. So here I want to look at, oops, it didn't change. Okay, so now I'm looking at the whole year. So, and again, I just picked a couple of metrics here, so I've still got average time here on page, which might be significant. I see some page activity, but not a lot of average time on page. But here, I see it spike. So this particular day, this person spent a lot of page. And here's where you can, you can point to any one event and see, wow, that spike was 21 seconds. So please go visit my page.
And linger.
Yes, and stay and click lots of times. But you can see for the year, I had 95 page views. Actually, I didn't know that. So I set this up a while ago, and I didn't even, I haven't been analyzing the data. So, and then down here you can see the actual pages people were on. So here's the actual personal site that I set up, the Google site. So I've had 5 page views, but I've had 28 page views on my products on my Google Marketplace site. So I can see what pages people are looking at. And that's important because what pages are they looking at? How much time are they spending on the pages? If they're going to my personal web page only a few times, maybe I'm not highlighting that right on those other pages, or maybe the information I have on those pages isn't driving them to the other site. And if they're not spending a lot of time on it, it's probably not very compelling data. Or they're just not interested. But you can see I have a pretty high bounce rate. Again, I don't have a lot of pages, so they might go see what they need and then just get out. So now, if I've been running this for 2 years, I could click that compare button up in the date range, which I haven't. I don't know how long. It's probably been on for a while, but let's see. So if I want to compare it, notice by default, it's going to pick the same time period. So I had 2012, and now it's looking at basically 2011. I don't know why I picked up that December 31st, 2010, but it's only one day off.
I think it does number of days. So
Yeah, I might do number of days, and in 2012 we had a leap year. So, okay, so not a lot of. I'm only looking at unique page views, so I probably didn't have this set up much before. Either that, or it's hard to tell. Yeah, I had no data from the previous year, but you get the idea. So the longer you're using this, the more data you collect and the more information you can get. Because, obviously your business is probably going to go in cycles too. Or maybe you had more advertising, or maybe you hired a consultant. Right? The search engine information, if it's important to you, you can do the basics on your own. But if you really want to drive that traffic to your site, I would say the search engine optimization is as much of an art as it is a science. So there are people out there who, really know that business. So if you're looking for that sort of service, then, or if you're looking for that sort of impact, you're probably going to have to go with someone who, does that for a living. But you got to weigh the costs and benefits of that to your business or to your organization, because it doesn't apply just to businesses. It could be organizations too. You can get into things like site speed. I'm going to turn off this comparison, and I'm going to go back to 2013. Probably not relevant for my site, but you can look at things like how fast your page loads. So if you have a multimedia site, or if you're selling something, and maybe you're with fly-by-night web hosting company, and it's taking, we're talking about very short periods of time, but when you're surfing the web, if something's taking a while to load, you get frustrated, anxious, you might be moving on. So there are just an incredible amount of tools available to you depending on your needs. So you might want to know how much time it's taking to load your site. So if I'm selling, art, and I have high resolution pictures and fly-by-night hosting, just, they're on dial-up still, connection, a real slow connection, then I may not, I might see that my page load times are high. And again, is it relevant to your business? This is probably a little more obscure thing, but you can see there are so many different tools, and if you're not sure, click on help and get the information on it. And if this is important to you, you probably know something about it. Like, hey, it took 0.4 milliseconds, and my competitor, I know when I go to his website, I can just see it loads twice as fast as mine. And if that's important to you, then you can measure those metrics, or you can view those metrics. So again, content, AdSense, that's if you're generating more revenue. There's even in-page analytics. I don't even know if that's going to generate anything from here. Oh, this is what they showed on the I think on the intro video. I don't know if it's going to work on my very basic page, but this is where it's going to show you information about how your website works. And I'm not real familiar with this tool. So,
and then here it'll show you kind of graphically where people are going.
Yeah, see, I don't really have things to click on my page, but I can look at the in-page analytics clicks. So if I had a lot of links, I could color code those links in my in-page analytics to see, I want links with more than 1% of the clicks to show these colors, and that's kind of jumbled up here. I can't read that. Not sure why. But just to give you an idea, so if you do, maybe you have a links page, maybe you're an organization and you link off, you're the library and you link to other libraries or other community type things, and you want to see what people are clicking on. Maybe your page is just too big and you want to make it smaller. Hey, is anyone really clicking on these links? Okay, these 5 no, these 5 yes, so I want to take off the 5 that aren't being clicked on and add 5 different ones because it's just taking up space, and I don't want them there. Or no one's clicking on these products, so maybe I'm going to change the way the picture or something about that link or the name of that link or something about that to try to get more people to click on it. So it's all about having the website and then looking at the various information to determine. It's all about analyzing your website. So that gets us through the analytics portion. We also we are kind of business orientated for this particular session. So we also wanted to talk a little bit about Google Local, and this shouldn't take long. And then then we'll have some more time for maybe those side questions that came up. So Google Local, what is Google Local? Well, did you ever wonder, like when you go to you do a search, and all of a sudden bakeries start coming up and local businesses, like, well, how do they know? Or I go to a Google map and I can see, hey, my competitor's on there, but why am I not on there? Well, so you'll want to go to this link, Places for Business, and you can sign in, and then you can list your business for free. And of course, you can also promote your business. So you want someone goes to a Google map and they do a search for a business, pizza places, and 20 different pizza places come up. And then you might see a series of ads on the side. Well, how do I get in those ads? Well, you first want to make sure your business is posted here so it comes up, but then you can also go to promote your business, and you can use Google AdWords Express in this case. It's the quickest and easy way to advertise your business on Google. So again, I'm not trying to sell Google, I don't get a commission, but that's what we're talking about here today. So how do I want to do this? Oops. So you can sign in, and here's some information of what you'll need to do in order to sign in. You can sign in for free. You can create a business for free. You need to have a mailing address. But one thing that it tells you is that you don't have to necessarily, so if you work out of your home, you don't have to list your mailing address, but they want to be able to contact you. They want to make sure it's legitimate. So if there does have a question arise, they'll call, maybe email you, contact you, like, hey, is this legit? So, but you could have a service area. So if you're that plumber working out of your house and you don't want people coming to your house, you don't have to advertise if you don't have an office, you don't have to put that there. But you could have a service area. So you can sign up for free, list your service. You can have multiple locations, but each one has. So if you have 2 offices, you have an Evergreen Park and a Schaumburg office, you can list those as long as you have physical mailing addresses for those. Okay, so once I sign up for that, which is real easy to do, you got a Google account already, you can just log in with your existing Google account. So if you are thinking about business and you want to start leveraging a lot of these free tools, it's a good idea to have a separate account for your business. So even if you go with the free personal Gmail, so I'm going to do Evergreen Park Plumbing at gmail.com. That's how to get a free Google account for your business. You can also, and you would get everything that comes with the Google, the free stuff, through that account. And you can do everything that we showed you here today with that. If you want to have your company name in it, So it's mycompany.com. Then you have to pay to do a Google account for your business. So so you want to have the Google Apps, you have an office, we covered Google Apps last week, and you want everyone to be in the same thing and everyone to have an email address with mycompany.com or your organization. Some organizations like schools and other ones, they have a free product available. But for the most part, if you want that organizational level access, you have to pay for an account. And you could contact us and we could help you with that. But the free thing here, so you sign in with your account. Again, if you're doing this as a business and you want to keep it completely free, I recommend you create a totally separate thing so it's not somehow related to your personal. So if you have a personal, that's fine, but you probably want to have a business one, whether you pay for it or not. That is up to you. And then the other thing is does anyone know what Google Plus is? You probably know what Facebook is. Google Plus is Google's version of Facebook. I personally like it better because I find it easier to use. However, if you're trying to connect with your high school friends, you probably want to use Facebook. So it's more of a social site, and so is Google Plus. And you can advertise, like Adad said, on Facebook. But what I like about Google Plus, for business purposes, is you can list your business there. If you have an account, you can use that account for your business, which is kind of hard to do with Facebook, in my opinion. So if I sign up for a personal account with Facebook, I can create a page, or I can pay to have a Facebook page for my business. But with Google Plus, I can sign up and have my own personal one, or I can sign up with either my paid or free Google account for my business and then get a Google Plus account. So now I can post things, I can have a presence on the web, so I can do all the social media type stuff that's out there, and it's fairly popular, not as popular as Facebook. And you may have to do both. If you're a business person, you may have to do both.
Just a quick question. With Google Plus, how well does SEO or Google Analytics play with Google Plus?
I can't answer that question directly, but what I can tell you is in the social piece here, it integrates nicely with Google Plus. And that's sort of the hook here, right? So it's the same thing if you're a Microsoft Office user or a Microsoft product. If you're using one, you're probably using them all, right? Because they all just tie nicely together there, and that's not an accident, right? So, but the social piece is going to integrate in easier, and I looked into it. You can integrate with Twitter, Facebook on the social piece, but now you're sort of in two different domains. You got to have the Google part, and then you have to generate a script or a code that you have to then put into your Facebook part. It's not difficult, but it's a hurdle you have to overcome, and again, you may have to do that. Let's face it, Facebook is more prevalent than Google Plus. So if you want to be in that space, you've got to figure out how to make that work. But if you're using Google Plus, at least if you're using both, the Google Plus piece is going to integrate in nicely. So now I can, at the risk of showing all my stuff here, I can go to my Google. This is my personal. And then one thing I can do is go to local. And notice what's nice here about... yeah, there must be a White Castle by here. Perfect timing, too, because it's about lunchtime. But this is what it's all about. And White Castle is paying for this, I'm sure. So it's recommended. It's recommended because, and I can't say 100%. My guess is White Castle's probably paying for advertising here. But when I was at home this morning and I was looking at some of this kind of reviewing things, I forget what came up, but it might have been it was another local establishment. So I have no idea whether or not this is paid for advertising. Usually Google's pretty good about telling you what's paid for and what's coming up. I had breakfast here the other morning with some colleagues from work, And that's interesting because how did that come here? From my search history. So I needed to search the address real quick. So what it's doing is, because I'm signed in to Google+, when I'm doing my searches, it's remembering. And you might think it's creepy, but it's actually, I find it actually very beneficial. So Evergreen Park Library. And what's nice about it is I can click on here. So there's my daughter's dentist. So I can click on this and get information. So if you're listed on Google+, your information is going to come up here. So as people are searching, and if they're interested in using Google+, like I went right to this, to the Google Local, so I'm not sure that a lot of people are doing that per se, but I do use this. You know, if I'm out of town and I want to see what's in the area, I'm going to, because it knows by my IP address, it doesn't always get it 100% right, but notice that I can search right in here. So, I don't know, oops, I clicked on that. So if I just want to, I must be hungry.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You tell me. Is this a good pizza place around here?
Yep, pretty good.
Okay. And what you'll notice about this is, I don't know what the score 25 means. I don't know what that means, but I could click on it. But it has 17 reviews. So if you're a local business owner, you have a local presence, and you have a store or a reason for people to come to you, then you're going to want to be on here. Because a lot of what people are probably doing is they're on their phones. Right? I do this. Again, not everybody works the same way I do, but a lot of people do. So I'm on my phone. I'm in an area where I'm not real familiar with. Let's say I wanted to have lunch after this. I may very well go on my phone, search for pizza place or any kind of restaurant or any kind of service. Maybe I need dry cleaners. So it's going to come up on the map, and these maps are very interactive now. So if you're not using this, it's relatively simple, and it's free to get listed here. And then you can go the full 9 yards. You can start putting in all kinds of information in here, pictures and information about your service or your product. And if you tie this into your analytics account, then you can start to measure how successful this is. And of course, there's always a link to more information. Even tells me my hours. So the more information you put into it, the better off it is. I can write a review. Here's a scoring guide. Oh, it's out of 30. So I would say, 25. Very good, excellent. So what I like to do is read the reviews, right? Especially when you're out of town. It's one thing to have a score, but what are people really saying?
Yeah, and all of this will tie into your analytics, which is really nice. And basically, like we've said, time and time again here, you're taking information from all of these different sources, and you're just putting it in one place so that you can run your business better. You can then choose to spend more money, more time, more resources into certain aspects of your advertising or your marketing, and analytics will help you kind of see it all in one place. And that's why analytics is so powerful, is because it's got all of these tools. You can use them if you want to, or you can, let's say you don't have a real big Facebook presence or social media presence. You don't have to go into that. Let's say you try that for a month and say, well, maybe this will work for a little bit and see how it works. If you see that you get a ton of hits and a ton of sales, and you see all of this, all of your sales go up, then maybe you want to keep going instead of just doing it for 1 month. Or maybe you want to try, maybe a paper thing or a poster thing. You want to post in different local areas. And it also depends on what your reach is. If you're doing stuff like we are, where we're going pretty much anywhere in the Chicagoland area, maybe you want to set your analytics account to measure that. Maybe see where, and maybe you can focus on different areas, see different demographics. So Google Analytics is very, very powerful tool. And all it does is take information from your site and take information from the real world and makes it visible to you in a graphical form, and it runs the reports automatically. That's all it does.
So hopefully you have a broad overview. There's a lot of moving parts, so try to cover just the very basics. But you can go back. Does everyone understand how to get to this document online? From time to time, if we do more presentations or if I come up with some really good content or something, we might update this document. So, if this is something you're really interested in doing, maybe bookmark this, come back to it, check it out. It may update as we get more information. But remember, that was a training video. Here's some links to different ways to create web pages. Here's the overview is that presentation. Just gave you some screenshots of sort of the process. So if you want to kind of look at it before you get into it to see what kind of information you need, you can look at that presentation. That's the site you click to log into if you can't find it. I guess I have it twice. And here's the IQ. So if you want to learn more, there's the help button, but there's also the analytics IQ, so that you can learn more. So hopefully we gave you a broad overview and you got a better understanding and maybe some ideas of things to run with and some work to do. But
how will we get this video or this what you've just recorded?
We can get that to the library. And do you have all the email addresses?
If you've shared them with us, yeah.
So if you shared your email address on the information with the library, then we will send you an email with the links to the video.
Did you send last week's?
Not yet. We're going to do them both at once.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
Yeah, sorry about that. It takes some time to process and get it up. We'll upload these videos to YouTube, so if you want to manage to review the 3-hour session, feel free, or if you want to just skip ahead to certain whatever parts you think were relevant, that's fine. We'll make this available to you. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
When you went to Google Plus
Uh-huh.
and you pulled up recommendations, or they popped up automatically of local establishments, were they paid? Were they a result of paid advertisement, or was that free advertisement under the Google Plus logo?
It's basically free. If you list your site, your place of business, your location, say Evergreen Park, and then someone searches for pizza in Evergreen Park and you're listed, you're going to come up.
Okay.
You may have to pay to have it like the what's it called?
Position feature, whatever.
To kind of have it featured and have a big nice banner, but this listing itself is free.
Wow.
See, notice the map.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So a lot of them popped up all over the place. And I know with, I don't know how they determine the order here. In a normal Google search, the order that comes up in what they call the organic or just whatever, that's Google searching the web, and they have their own ways of categorizing. It's actually very fascinating, though I couldn't pretend to understand anything that these guys from MIT and all these places put together. But usually what you see here is organic, and meaning that Google goes out, they search the web, and they analyze websites, and when you do a search, they rank those pages and they come up, and that's not paid for. Now there are things you can do to push your site up to the top there, and these may be ranked maybe by reviews. I don't know. So, but you can scroll through here. But chances are, if you're a plumbing contractor, yeah, there might be 5 of them, but there's not going to be 100 of them. Maybe in Chicago, but you can even drill down within a more specific reason. So, and then you will notice that there will be from time to time. Usually, you get sponsored links or whatever, and those are what you're paying for.
Yeah. Another question, if I can.
Did anyone else have a question?
I have a simple.
Oh, okay, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So I've got a web page.
Uh-huh.
And what do I need to put on the web page in order to get Google Analytics to start? Is it just the ID? copy and paste the ID, or that entire?
Depends on the website itself. Remember I showed you Google Sites where you put that ID
Yes.
into it. That's probably the easiest way to do it. But if you don't have a Google site, if you have a different site, you're going to need that code that's generated. So when we were in the analytics site,
Gobbledygook.
yeah, but you don't need to know what that means or even write it yourself. That gets generated automatically. And I'm
Not
trying.
even if my life depended on it. When I was-
Yeah, and I couldn't either, to be honest with you. So that's right here. So if I drill down into my property, oops, no, I want to go into admin. Tracking info. So right here is the gobbledygook.
Right, so you copy paste that into.
Right. You copy and paste it. Now if you change something, this code might change. Now there's not a lot of things you can change, but if you do change something in here and it generates new gobbledygook, for a layman's term, then you're going to have to update that if you want to track it. But for the most part, this is not going to change. But yeah, so it depends on who hosts your website or how you manage your website, how you get this information in there. There's 3 basic ways. We showed you 2, and the third way is you just have you go into actual code of the website yourself and you paste it in there, and if you know how to do that, then you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, you're probably going to hire somebody, or you're going to use one of the other easier methods. But there's help within analytics itself, or probably through your host, like Weebly said, hey, if you use Google Analytics, paste your code here. So this is not something that's really obscure. A lot of people support this. Yes.
My question was, I wasn't able to attend last week, and if you had a document similar to this one.
I can give you the link to it. I
Yeah,
don't know that I have any more printed copies. Yeah? Okay, I'll give you. We have a very similar link. In fact, I'll put it up here.
Well,